We're glad everybody is here today. Let's open our Bibles together to Matthew chapter 15. Matthew 15 will be the text that we'll be using together this morning. Life is about 10% what happens to you, and about 90% how you respond to what happens to you. None of us can control events. One of my favorite Americans, our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, said, "I plainly confess that I have not controlled events, but that events have controlled me." And yet we look back on Lincoln and see him as one of the shining examples, not just of decency and morality, but of leadership, because he was able through attitude to rise above some very unpleasant and very difficult circumstances. I've been around this long enough to know that a lot of you are here today and your minds are preoccupied. Your hearts are heavy. You're nervous. You're worried about the future. What's going to happen to me? How am I going to make a living? How am I going to get out of this hole that I've dug for myself? Or how am I going to get over these circumstances that have happened through no fault of my own? The answer is attitude. How will you deal with the cards that you've already been dealt? It's been mentioned one of my favorite things to do on Saturdays, if there's not a funeral or some kind of ministry opportunity going on, is to sit around and watch college football. I can sit there for sun up till sundown just about, and even a few hours beyond. Years ago, one of my favorite players was the New York Jets quarterback Joe Namath. And when Joe Willie was in college at the University of Alabama, his football coach, Bear Bryant, Hall of Famer, had a sign in the Alabama locker room. Namath said enough about the sign and its impact on him that he included it in a book that he wrote. And this is what the sign says, and its message is for all of us. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win but you think you can't, it's almost certain you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out in the world we find success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win a prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man. But soon or late, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. There's a lot of truth in that for us today. Because how many things in life are accomplished outside of determination and perseverance? We waste a lot of precious time wishing that we were more talented than we are, wishing we had abilities that we don't possess, and being envious of those who have them, and thinking, well, it'd be a lot easier if I were that person, or it'd be a lot easier if I were born into those circumstances. I like how Woody Allen put it. He said, my biggest regret in life is that I was not born someone else. And maybe you think that today. Well, here's the thing. You can't change who you are. You can't change what you were born, but you can change what you do with it. You can change how you think about it. And our text in Matthew's gospel today records a meeting that took place between a Canaanite woman, a foreigner in the country of Israel, and Jesus. And her example continues to teach us as much about a faith that won't quit as anyone else that we see in all of the Bible. Let's look together at that story. It begins in Matthew 15 and verse 21. And Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and was crying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon." But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came and begged him, saying, "Send her away, for she's crying out after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered, "It's not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "O woman, great is your faith, be it done as you desire." And her daughter was healed instantly. I want to break this situation down into a few groups, if we will. And maybe somewhere in the midst of this, you might see where you are and what particular group you occupy. Let's begin with the difficult situation. 2,000 years removed from this, we don't really have a keen appreciation for what it meant to suffer from demon possession. I guess in some places in the world, folks still think that goes on. Maybe there's still a few folks that are running around today that are demon possessed. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever seen one. We got a beautiful young sister in Christ now named Heaven. I haven't known too many people named Heaven. I've known a few that should be named Hell, but that's another sermon for another time, okay? But in the New Testament, demon possession was a very real thing. It almost seems as if the Lord gave the forces of darkness more of a free hand, since the forces of good also had more of a free hand. You say, "Well, I don't understand what you're saying, Chuck. When's the last time you saw a person drop dead and then be raised back to life?" I've lived 53 years and I haven't seen that. It happened in the first century quite a bit. So there were some things going on there that perhaps are not going on today. But you can take a snapshot in the New Testament of some of the side effects that came with demon possession. Let's notice a few. John chapter 10, verse 20, demons could cause mental disorders. Someone not being in their right mind. You couldn't talk with them. You couldn't reason with them. There are some times in the New Testament you see people under demonic possession living in cemeteries away from society. Well, they're not in their right mind. Maybe you've seen somebody like that. I've seen a few like that too. Luke chapter 8 tells us that demons could cause violent actions. There were some rather humorous examples in the New Testament of someone being under demon possession and them just literally beating a whole room full of people. We're going to go get a hold of that guy and pull him over here. You better be careful what you wish for. It's like the dog that chases the cars. What's a dog going to do once he catches the car? He hadn't thought that far along. Well, you find in someone with demon possession, you better tread carefully, because they had this otherworldly strength. Luke 13 says that demon possession could cause bodily disease. It could cause you to be literally sick. And that appears to be what's going on with this woman. She's watching her daughter suffer. There's nothing worse for a parent than watching their child suffer and not being able to do anything about it. There's nothing worse than that. I've got 2 boys. And I would literally give every penny I have to make sure that they wouldn't have to suffer through something horrific like this. I'd do anything. There's nothing I wouldn't give for that. This woman feels very much the same way. Slowly and slowly, day after day, week after week, she's watching her daughter go downhill, and there's nothing she can do about it. So she takes a flyer on the one thing she can do. She goes to Jesus, believing that nobody else can do anything, but Jesus can surely do something. I don't know what this woman's background was. I know her nationality, but I don't know anything about her life. The Bible writer doesn't tell us. I don't know how smart she was. I don't know her education. I know this. She's pretty wise, because she understood something that billions of people don't understand today. Jesus is the answer. You say, well, what's the question? I don't care what the question is. Jesus is the answer. If you go to Jesus and you follow Jesus, if you place your faith in Jesus, whatever it is that's causing problems in your life will be better. Okay, Jesus doesn't promise that he's going to take away every unpleasant circumstance away from our lives. That's those idiots on television with the great hair who preach. You know, the televangelist. If you give your money to the Billy Bob ministry, Jesus will heal you and all of your problems will go away. I'm like, you know, you need to be really grateful that God no longer strikes people dead for lying on the spot. Because that is not the gospel, my friends. The gospel is that Jesus will save you, that Jesus will forgive you, that Jesus will give you a place to stand, that he'll give you a future, that he'll give you the strength to deal with the troubles that you have, but he's not going to magically wave his hand and make all the troubles go away. All of a sudden, you're going to be flying first class on the plane? Give me a book, chapter, and verse for that. I know Brother Osteen thinks that. It's not in my Bible. You know what is in my Bible? When people came to Jesus to follow him, it's almost as if he tried to talk some of them out of it. But they said, Lord, I'll follow you wherever you go. You know what Jesus said to those people who hadn't quite thought that through? Foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Jesus says, you want to follow me? Are you ready to be homeless? Are you ready for that? Well, no, I thought it was going to be, wine, women, and song, Lord. No, it's not going to be that. Okay, here's the thing. Jesus is the answer. But he's not necessarily the answer that everybody thinks that he is today. But friends, I've lived a long time already. I'm telling you, Jesus is the answer to every one of life's problems. And anyone that tells you something else, well, they're usually trying to sell you something. Jesus isn't trying to sell you anything. He's trying to give you freedom. He's trying to give you eternal life. That's the best deal you're ever going to hear. So first of all, this woman is in a very difficult situation. But what happens next is maybe even more shocking than that. She receives a dismissive response. Now, everybody understands what's going on here. Her daughter's in trouble. She needs help. What does she do? Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is suffering terribly from demon possession. So what does Jesus do? He ignores her. Doesn't say anything to her. Now, how would you deal with that today? You go up to somebody, you say, how you doing? My name is Julie. I've heard good things about you. I've been looking forward to meeting you. And they look at you and do this. And walk away. Now, if you're like me, you're like, what is your problem? I mean, really? What's your major deal? That's rude. You don't do that. This woman comes to Jesus, Lord, I need help. And what does he do? He turns and walks away and ignores her. Well, she's not willing to just settle for that. She keeps after him. And the disciples come to Jesus, Lord, would you tell her to get lost? She's bothering us now. And what does Jesus say? I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. In other words, no foreigners need apply. She's not a Jew. She's a Canaanite. Jews and the Canaanites had some history, most of it unpleasant. Jesus says, I'm not here for them. I'm here for the Jews. Now, if you didn't know anything else about Jesus, what would you conclude about him from this? Well, he's a little bit rude. He's a little bit of a racist. He's a little bit of a xenophobe. It would almost be like he's some political leader saying, we don't want any of you people from those other countries. We're going to build a wall to keep all of you criminals out. I don't think that would ever happen, but, you just, play along, okay? Here's the point. I love when people try to explain what Jesus is doing here. I've actually heard biblical commentators say, well, see, what was going on in Romans 1 and verse 16, it says the gospel's first for the Jew and then for the Gentile. So Jesus doesn't want to get the right order messed up. So he's going to the Jews first and then he's going to the Gentile. I don't think that has anything to do with it. This is my take on that. I think Jesus is messing with her. I think Jesus is poking at her. I think he's testing her to see how she's going to pass the test. Now that's remarkable. But I think that Jesus has a plan. That leads to step 3. He's going to find out how determined this woman is in her faith. Listen. Anyone that tells you that being a Christian is easy is a liar. It is not easy. Being a Christian is the hardest, most challenging thing that you and I will ever do. Now, it's also the most rewarding thing, but it's not easy. You know, that business about being really kind to people that are horrible to you, I don't have any trouble with that. I have trouble with that every day of my life. Every day. And that's just when I get behind the wheel and get on the highway and drive. It gets worse when I get out of the car and have to see them face to face. Do you know you cut me off? You know, I mean, you know how we are. We're difficult. At our best, we're difficult. Okay? It's not easy to return kindness in the place of unkindness. It's not. There are a lot of things. It's not easy to say no to temptation. Oscar Wilde one time said, I can say no to anything except temptation. And that's the way a lot of us are. You know, we were tempted, well, I got to go do this. No, you don't. You know, have some self-control, but that's not an easy thing to do. Okay, if you're going to follow Jesus, he says you must take up your cross and deny yourself. Is it easy to deny ourselves? I struggle with that every time I go past the refrigerator. Chuck, you don't need to eat. You just ate 30 minutes ago. But I'm starving. How hungry can you be? You know, it hadn't been that long. We don't want to deny ourselves anything. And being a Christian, it's going to involve some determination. So notice what happens. Whether she's Jewish or not going to take no for an answer, she continues to press Jesus. You've got to help my daughter. No, I'm not. Jesus, you've got to help her. And he says this. Now listen to this. Don't miss this. It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. He just called her a dog. Okay, now again, a little bit of clarity might help. If somebody calls you a dog in America, is that the worst insult you could ever get? No. We're crazy about dogs. I got a dog. He's 14 years old. He and I are like Butch and Sundance. We go down life's road together. We've had some good times. My little niece came over when she was a teenager, and he was sitting in my lap. We were watching the football game. He likes football too. Amazing. He eats the same foods I eat. He likes the same programs I like. He's sitting there, and I'm talking to him, and it's petting him, and she looked at me, and she said, you know, I've noticed something about you. I'm like, what's that? She said, you like dogs more than people. I said, some people, and I continued to go back to my program, okay? Being a dog in America is not the worst thing. You seen the commercials? And I'm figuring if the terrorists hate us, I figured out why. You can get your pet medication delivered to your house. I think the terrorists were probably cool with most American freedoms and things, but when they saw that we were getting our pet medication delivered to the house, it's like, that's it, death to America. We've got to attack these people. Okay, the point is, being a dog in America is not a bad thing. Our dogs have it better than most people in most countries. Again, if you don't understand the first century context, you're going to miss this. When Jesus says it's not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs, in the Middle East, a dog is not a good thing to be. Dogs are unclean, they're dangerous, they're generally despised. They're not cuddly. They don't dress their dogs up in sweaters and hats like we do. Dogs are bad. So Jesus is saying, I'm over here with these good people, not over there with a bunch of you dirty dogs. This is an insult, is what it is. Now, time out. I wish I were smart enough to keep a running total, a running count of all the people that used to be in the church that quit the church because somebody insulted them. I can't count that high. Well, I used to go to church, but then some Christian was mean to me, and they said something to me, and they did something to me. And you know, some of that's true. Christians can be jerks. Some of the meanest people in my life have been Christians. Some of the people that have treated me the worst have been Christians. Guess what? So what? The Lord is terrific. The church is great, and if there are a few fools in it, I can live with that, okay? I'm not going to quit the church. I'm going to quit the church because there's somebody that's got a big mouth. Or I'm going to leave the church because somebody was hateful to me or unkind to me. I'm not leaving Jesus for anything, okay? I'm not walking away from him. It's kind of amazing, you know. Someone was mean to me at McDonald's. So let me guess, you never went to McDonald's the rest of your life. No, I went the next day. Well, I mean, kind of shows you where your priorities are, right? We got to get past this business that somebody was mean to me or somebody was unkind to me or somebody ignored me. That's part of being human beings. Okay? Have we ever done that to people? Yeah. Well, then, you know, live a little. Okay? Be more forgiving. Now, notice what she does when Jesus calls her a dog. She could have just really gone off on him. Because we get upset when Christians insult us. What would you do if Christ insulted you? That's what's happening here. And you can almost see her. She probably smiled. She said, well, yeah, Lord, but even the dogs get to eat the crumbs that fall from the table. Jesus is like, I can't believe this lady. She keeps coming back, and I'm like, no, get away, get away, get away. She won't take no for an answer. You ever known anybody like that? That's a good trait, okay? Those are the people that run things. Those are the people that get things done. My favorite team, the University of Michigan, a couple of weeks ago, was playing Air Force. Stupid decision to schedule any of the service academies. You don't want to play in football or anything else. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, whoever else has a team. Stay away from the military people. Here's why. The military people they never quit. They just keep coming. They keep coming. We were bigger than them. We were faster than them. We were better than them. And we barely got out of our own stadium with our lives. They keep coming. And one of the Michigan players, he had a great line after the game. He said, man, those guys are something. They just keep coming after you. He said, I feel sorry for the terrorists. They don't have a chance against these guys. And that's kind of how it is. You ever know anybody in the military? That's how they are, okay? This woman's like that. She's like, Jesus, you're going to help my daughter. No, I'm not. Jesus, you're going to help my daughter. No, you're the wrong nationality. Jesus, you're going to help my daughter. Hey, I'm busy. Jesus, you're going to help my daughter. No, I'm just here to take care of these good people, not the dogs. Jesus. And finally, he's like, I surrender, okay? It doesn't say it in the text, so, don't quote me on this. I don't want to be written up in any of those Church of Christ papers, but I'm pretty sure at this point that Jesus smiled. And he says, lady, I haven't seen faith like this in all of Israel, in all of it. You're unbelievable. This is the kind of faith that Jesus is looking for. The kind of faith that won't quit. The kind of faith that won't take no for an answer. What does he say to her? He says, go in peace. Your request has been granted. Here's the thing. That's what God's looking for from us. You're not perfect, and I'm not either. Let's just quit playing games. We all have sins. We all fall short of the glory of God. But God's looking for people that will not quit, that won't give up. That, when they fall, you know what they do when they fall? They get back up and they try again. And when someone is struggling with an addiction and they relapse, well, that's it. They said they were going to quit and they went right back. So you're going to quit? No, you're not going to quit. Someone's having trouble with their tongue, using the right language, and they slip and say a bad word. You think God's done with you? No, God's not done with you. God is asking you this question: will you persevere, or will you quit? The world's full of really talented quitters. Most of them don't go on to do much of anything. You know what the world's also full of? People that aren't all that talented, but they refuse to quit and they keep trying. I watched my mother. She was a high school dropout. A mother at the age of 16 years of age. She became a hairdresser. Did pretty well with that, but she wanted to go back and become a nurse. Well, she went back and enrolled in a community college in Flint, Michigan. Most of the people that were in there studying for that were 15 years younger than she was. She was old when she went back to school. I remember this as plain as day when I was in junior high. She went back about that time. And for about 5, 6, 7 hours a night, she'd be in the living room studying. If I'd have studied as much as her, I would be president of the world right now. I mean, she was relentless. She would not stop. She became a registered nurse. She went on in her career to help a lot of people. You know why? Not because she was naturally brilliant. She wouldn't take no for an answer. The people that accomplish things are people that won't quit. The people that stay faithful to God are people who won't quit. Friends, you're not going to be able to see the road clearly in front of you all the time. Life is that way. It has a lot of surprises. I don't know what the next year is going to hold for you, and I don't even know what it's going to hold for me. I know this, whatever happens, God can handle it. He's got it. And we don't have to quit. We say, well, I didn't think I was going to end up here. I didn't think I was going to end up here either, okay? Maybe God in the next year, the next 5 years, has got something else in store for all of us. I suspect that he does. You'll never know what that is if you quit. If you say, well, it was too hard, so I gave up. Or somebody was mean, so I turned around. Somebody ignored me, and they didn't bring me in, so I didn't have anything to do with it. You cannot quit. There's a great story that's told. It unfolds on July the 4th, 1952, when a young woman named Florence Chadwick waded into the waters off Catalina Island in California. She intended to swim the distance from the channel from the island to the California coast. At that time, there were not a lot of people doing long-distance swimming. There were virtually no women that long ago doing long-distance swimming. But she'd already been successful. She'd already been able to swim the English Channel in both directions, and now she was going to do it. But you can see the water was cold. The fog was so thick that she couldn't even see the boats that were in her party. Several times there were sharks that were circling around, and they had to drive the sharks away with rifle fire. She swam more than 15 hours before finally she couldn't see going on any further. She asked to be taken out of the water. She was only a half mile from her destination. They said, Florence, why did you quit? She said, I couldn't see. I couldn't see the goal. I didn't know, and I just lost heart. Later she said this, I'm not excusing myself, but if I just could have seen the land, I might have made it. See, it wasn't cold or exhaustion that caused Florence Chadwick to fail. It was the fog. And so much of the time when you and I fail, it's not because we're afraid or because of peer pressure or because of anything else other than we just lose sight of the goal. There's some of you that have come in to the program. I don't know if I can make it a year. I've been here a month and it seems like I've been here 5 years already. I don't know. Some of you that are new, every day, 365, I don't know if I can make it. You know how you make it? One day at a time. That's how you make it. Inch by inch is a cinch, but yard by yard is hard, okay? One day at a time. That's how you do it. You might not be able to see the goal, but the goal is still out there. There's a great ending to this story. 2 months after her failure, Florence Chadwick walked off the same beach into the same body of water and swam the distance, setting a new speed record. You know what was different? This time she could see the land. I don't know what your future holds or what mine holds, but God will help you. God will get you through this. You just have got to determine, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to let people mean-mouth me and discourage me. I'm not going to give into it. I'm not going to let events and circumstances cause me to give up. Martin Luther King Jr. said this, If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. That's a pretty good prescription for the Christian life. Do what you can. The Bible says in the book of James, draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. The only people that really understand what that means is the ones that don't quit. So what does that say about us? Are we the ones that find it difficult and turn back? Are we the ones that accept the challenges and refuse to quit? Those are the people that Jesus is looking for. How determined today is your faith? Don't give in to discouragement. When things get difficult, don't walk away. Redouble your determination and say, I will be faithful. So today, if the invitation of Jesus is calling to you in any way, if you need to rededicate yourself to His service, if you need to be baptized, if you just need prayer saying, I feel weak and I need God's strength, turn it over to the one who is the true and living answer to all of life's problems, Jesus the Christ, the Son of God. If His invitation is calling to you, we invite you to come as we stand, as we sing.